Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 128 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris, coming at you solo once again, and kind of got a two-pronged show here. Going to bounce from football to baseball and back to football to close out the show. Uh, I entered this episode. Well, not entered, but after recording the last episode, kind of about the baseball postmortem and the 5+11 college football model, which that seems to cool down this past week in terms of news. So we'll see how that plays out. But kind of thinking, what's going on? Nothing much. And then some ASU recruiting storylines popped up, and some baseball postseason or postseason stuff popped up, and something I wanted to touch on as well that I'd been planning. So hopefully not going to go too long. The show should be up in your feeds Monday morning of the 16th. I'm recording this on Sunday night because I procrastinate. I procrastinate like it's going out of style, man. I really, I really put this off recording on Sunday night. But you know what? I'm energetic now, and we got some good stuff to talk about. So please like and subscribe before I get going. Please rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And remember to follow the College Huddle podcast network as well. Do a lot of great work, including yours truly, this show, Stomp the Bus, on your podcast platform or on YouTube, where you can see my beautiful bearded face. I look like I've been on Survivor for a bit, but you know what? The look's okay. It's not the most professional look, but here we are doing it anyway. All right, on to football. So I'm not going to touch too much on this stuff, but ASU, all of their coaches had been teasing this golden ticket thing, and it was kind of just like, what's going on? They've been teasing it for about 2 weeks. And it was interesting just to see, like, okay, like what is this golden ticket thing going to be? Obviously it's from the Willy Wonka movie, Golden Ticket to the Candy Shop or whatever, or candy shop. Good Lord, the Candy Factory. And it turns out, or what's funny, side note, like any fans of The Office, I was thinking, oh no, the golden ticket. That's the episode where Michael gives all the, golden tickets for 10% off paper. He thinks he's distributing them throughout the warehouse, all going to different clients. Turns out they all go to one big client. It almost blows up in his face, and then it works out. Hopefully this ASU golden ticket thing doesn't end up almost getting Michael Scott fired in this case, in this instance being Kenny Dillingham getting almost fired. But that's a side note. Hopefully it works out better than the Dunder Mifflin version of the golden ticket. So we find out what it is over the weekend, and I'm going to screen share Chris Cartman's feed on my show. Damon Allred of Arizona Sports also had the news of what the golden ticket was and what it represented. It's focused on 6 priority in-state recruits of the 2027 class. Jake Hildebrand from Basha, offensive tackle; Jai Jones, Chandler High School athlete; Ben Lowther, Centennial offensive tackle; Noah Roberts, Basha running back; Kel Snyder, Perry quarterback; Zarek Sidney, Desert Edge wide receiver. Many of these guys are 4 stars and high 3 stars, guys you want to get. And now that I know what this golden ticket thing is, it seems like it's a really good idea by the coaching staff to kind of refocus their efforts in in-state recruiting, because it hasn't been going great, right? ASU recruiting as a whole has been doing pretty well, but they haven't quite cleaned up on the in-state recruiting front as much as they had hoped. And Dillingham mentioned that in a press conference midweek last week, which I'll get to in a bit. In this class, the 26th class, I believe they only have 2 players. They have safety Zeth Thuas, I believe, I think he's from Liberty High School, and then they got a defensive lineman. I'm not gonna. Let's see. You know what? I'll find it on my page. They got it. He's from Westwood High School. He is defensive lineman. Oh, this is bad podcasting. Not having it up right now. I should have had this up. I know I retweeted it. Here we go. Oh, this is someone else. Oh my gosh. There we go. Sine Tenge, defensive lineman, Westwood High School from Mesa. Lower in the rankings, but he did well at the camp and he's committed. So ASU also added offensive lineman Sayosea Linai Lapuahau. He comes from Garden City Community College, I believe, in Utah. So it's another JUCO guy. Anyway, all of that is to say, you know, they only have 2 in-state guys in their class, and it hasn't been going that great. So it's really good to see them making these sought-after 2027 guys in that class high-priority recruits. And I'm going to scroll up on Cartman's page. I recommend everyone follow Chris Cartman. He does a great job, and there's just a lot of good information from him. I'll also say this is Jake Hildenbrand's. They gave him out on midnight of Saturday night, Sunday morning. So this is Jake Hildenbrand's Twitter account. Thank you so much for the midnight love and the honor of being given the golden ticket. Tags all the coaches. It means the world to me to be blessed with this attention. And then you get this cool graphic. And by the way, they have like their own. It shortens in there when I click on it. Okay. If you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, like it has an envision of their face, number 1 out of 6. Their name, high school, and then you got all this insignia, Big 12, Adidas, Sun Devil logo on the bottom. Very, very personalized, customized, and very well done. You know, I saw the tweets of the golden ticket stuff, and I was like, oh man, like this kind of looks cheesy. But the design team really knocked it out of the park. It kind of looks like a high prized sports card, you know. With like the seal over it and stuff. So the design team did a really good job, and this kind of stuff matters. And I think having their face in the background of it is a really good touch as well. So that's what the golden ticket thing, in terms of just being recruited, like it's just a cool step for them. And so Cartman I'm not going to click through the story. You can read it on his page on 247 Sports, sundevilsource.com. It has quotes from 5 of them. Quote, Hildebrand, it felt so real. From Lowther, quote, I'm so proud. Zarek Sidney, who's the highest recruit, it's a great campaign. Noah Roberts, quote, I know I'm a priority. Quote, Cale Snyder is very special. So, you know, whatever. That not all 6 of these guys are going to. Here's another look from Saga Tuatele on Twitter. Really good, man. They did a great job with the design. Just as it just really looks like they're real cards. So really good job by them. I'm gonna stop sharing now. What's important about this is it's making inroads with these kids at an earlier age. It's making them feel like a priority, and it is a new strategy. And this is what Dillingham mentioned in his press conference. Like, we can't just run the same playbook that we've been doing with in-state recruiting because it is clearly not working. Ralph Amston, who's been on the show, does Sun Devil Source every Wednesday, or not Sunday, Jesus, Sun Devil Twitter Spaces every Wednesday night, most Wednesday nights. Basically mentioned that ASU coaches weren't at like a big camp on the west side out in like Desert Edge High School in Goodyear, and that's a bad look. Like, that's a bad look for ASU coaches. And so I am glad that there's been a renewed idea. It's innovative. And it's a good step that they are tackling this issue head on instead of like some previous ASU coaching staffs just being like, oh, they just don't want to come here, or oh, whatever. And like maybe and look, like not every kid's gonna want to stay home. Like that's just reality. It is just, and there are good options elsewhere. Like not all 6 of these kids are going to commit to ASU. That's just not how it's going to work out. If you can get 3 of them, if you told me right now you'd get 3 of them, I'd sign up right now today. Like that would be a fantastic outcome. So I like that they are trying a new strategy. It seems to have generated some good buzz. And as you can see on Cartman's page or any, from the ASU social media presence, they've been, sending out a lot of stuff in the 2027 class as well. So they're hitting the recruiting trail hard. I like, I like the general step of it. And it's at least a new strategy, and it does, if you're one of these recruits, it does make you feel extra special because it's like, oh, like I'm really getting prioritized by these guys, and that's pretty cool. So, and this, Ben Lowther, he's considered 10th on the 24/7 rankings, but they like him more. So, that not in on this guy Dante Tyson from Peoria. So I guess we won't have another Tyson wide receiver, but Zarek Sidney from Desert Edge, Jai Jones, Chandler, like they're really just making an effort, and it's good to see. It's good to see, and this Noah Roberts running back is like so far the prize of the class, and so you got in with these guys early. And so that's a good first step. Who knows how it'll play out? There is no guarantees. Recruiting is a fickle business, and you're convincing 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds what to do with their life. Like I good luck. I'm 29 years old. I don't even know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Like it's it's a lot. So, but anyway, I'll switch over. This is from Adam Beadle, who is a journalist in the high school sports scene. This is a video he quotes from Damon Allred from Arizona Sports. You guys should check out their podcast as well. It's basically Dillingham saying, like, well, here's the quote. We're trying to figure out this code to recruiting Arizona. What we're doing right now isn't necessarily working at the highest level yet. So we're going to change our strategy. We're going to change it up. We're going to recruit the state a little differently. So I'm going to share this screen from Twitter now. I feel like most of my show is just sharing screens from Twitter, but it has a lot of information. So this is the post. It's Dillingham talking about it. And you have some people quoting, but then you have may I have some suggestions? Coach Crawford. So this is a coach. Don't tell us, show us. The code is simple. Give real offers based off real football. Film the potential, not off hype, 7 off 7. Or track time that doesn't unless mean you're a good football player. Jed Fish at UW seemed to have cracked the code. In AZ, former Arizona coach, Eric Thomas gives a yawn. So, some of and basically the point is some of these are parents not impressed with their previous recruiting efforts. So it's good that they recognize the issue. It's bad that they let the issue get kind of to this in the first place. I quote tweet it on the 11th, some interesting responses to this post. Clearly, ASU needs to do some things differently. I also speculated. This is what I posted on the 11th. Who knows if this golden ticket recruiting thing from ASU football will work in any real way, but I like that the staff is identifying an issue and trying to fix it. But it's clear that AZ in-state recruiting won't turn around overnight. I still agree with that. 2 things will help in a big way. Sustained winning, even higher payroll. And the payroll thing, some kids are just going to take the bag. And ASU is not in the position, even with, the House settlement going through, it's not going to be in the position to just offer the biggest, high school recruiting bonus. And that's just something, unless, a billionaire comes in and drops a bunch of money into ASU football, it's a good way to earn good good press. It is. If you have some money burning a hole in your pocket, dump it into ASU football because they will use it. And I know people say like, oh, the house settlement's here and everyone's going to be paying, everyone has $20.5 million to work with. And that is true. Like it is kind of a stabilizer, but like Texas Tech is still going to be dropping bags, Oregon, Miami, all these schools, SMU, like all these schools with really liquid boosters are going to continue paying kids outside of the house settlement guidelines. And so that's just how it's going to be. So I'm not saying it's the only thing that ASU should rely on, but as you keep kind of building this program and, building off a great season last year, and Dillingham, by the way, he's been proactive about this, right? Like a month ago, he was at a venture capital meeting. And personally, I don't like venture capital at all, but like if you're, using them to get money for ASU football, like that's great. Like, so like just there needs to be more continued efforts in that because like that is one of the reasons why you aren't like at the tippy top of recruiting as you can be, And so I know that the staff, Dillingham definitely wants to recruit better. Like this guy, having been at Auburn and Oregon and Florida State, like he knows the importance of recruiting. Okay. Like he understands that like in the grand scheme of things in college football, like that stars matter. So, and then you could see that in their golden ticket strategy with who they brought in. And then this is one issue that I have with, not issue, but one speculation that I personally made back last week. One issue that remains for ASU is a lot of these kids grow up in the Phoenix suburbs where everything looks the same. Some people might get mad at that, but like it's the tan houses, the planned communities. It's if you've been to like the West Side, a lot of these communities just look very similar. And the same thing with the East Side. Like it's a lot of these same type of houses, and a lot of kids just want to leave, go out of state. On top of that, so those are issues ASU's facing. But to kind of wrap up this conversation, like I still really like the golden ticket idea. I'll say this: I like it much more now that I've seen the execution of it. Just from how they rolled it out, from who they offered it to, and the actual like social media designs of it. I think they hit a home run with it. And who knows? Who knows how much it'll work? But you can't say that they weren't trying, right? You can't say that they weren't prioritizing these high-level recruits in the 2027 class. They were. Will it play out? Will someone come over the top and drop them, a huge signing bonus, which is that's just the state of play. Like I don't have an issue with that, but it's something ASU has to deal with. Remains to be seen. And, like this guy, Zarek Sidley, like he's been active, like Noah Roberts, like they're getting recruited from out of state. I think UW's in on them both. Like it's not like ASU's just going to have no one else to compete with. So, it'll be tough to land these kids and keep them and have them not transfer and all that. But like, that's just how it is in college football. And so I think ASU is at least putting itself in a good position. All right. Speaking of putting yourself in a good position, ASU baseball is absolutely killing it in the transfer portal, just slaughtering the transfer portal. So before I share some individual players, I'm going to share ASU's transfer portal ranking. This is from 664 Analytics, which is a college baseball statistics ranking and analysis. They have top 20 of the transfer portal ranking, 5,682 players in the portal. But in D1, D2, and D3, 568 log commitments, so about 10% have committed. So ASU will likely add even more players. And the College World Series still going on. Thank the Lord, Arizona is out. I could not have bared watching them win a College World Series. A little side note before we get into like analyzing the players one by one, but like this College World Series shows that like ASU baseball is not that far off. Okay, they really aren't. Like, you just need to be better in the regular season, get some better pitching performances, and it's not a guaranteed you get there, but you can be one of the 8 teams left. Murray State is currently alive. Coastal Carolina is a wagon right now. Oregon State, they have more resources, but like the point being, like you're not fighting that much of an uphill battle, and Arizona isn't like in a completely different league than you are in terms of resources and stuff like that. You can say that about some of the SEC schools, but there's only 2 left, right? And one of them's going to lose to the other. So there you go. Like, it's not impossible. Anyway, back to 64 Analytics, their portal update. Your Arizona State Sun Devils are in the 8th spot, weirdly behind Lamar University and UConn. Good for them. I don't know how exactly the methodology works for it, but okay. I'm not going to sit here and C players lost. I assume CP means players coming in some way that they measure it. So Arizona State sits at the 8th spot, which is great. I mean, they've added some really big names. The number one name that really his statistics really popped out at me when I looked at it is this guy Dean Toigo from UNLV. He hit 377 last year in the Mountain West. And I mean, you got to appreciate this kid's headshot, man. This dude has swag. Okay, when you're rocking this look in your headshot and giving the little cocked eye face, like, this dude can hit a baseball. Okay, and he knows it. Let's get into the specific stats. Huge left-handed power. 18 home runs, 13 doubles, 377 batting average, 74 RBI. He had like a 680 OPS. This is a fantastic addition. Just a fantastic player. So it's great to get him. He right now is, in my opinion, the jewel of the class. But another guy, and credit to House of Sparky for compiling this list, is this guy Dominic Longo from Utah Valley. And you'll remember Utah Valley beat Oregon in the regional. And so that he was obviously had to be part of that. And I'm going to be looking at these guys through my phone because if I put all their stats on my laptop, it'll probably crash. But anyway, Dominic Longo, where do I see his stats here? Yeah. So shortstop, another, he hit 305, 11 home runs, 17 doubles, 3 triples. Just another really good addition. He was one of the highest rated transfers in the class. So there you go. You just add in 2 great players. Let's talk about Garrett Mitchell. Garrett Mitchell had a great freshman year at Virginia Tech. But he missed most of 24 and 25 with injury. And look, I'm just reading a Virginia Tech blog right now, and they're saying like, "Oh, this is a massive hole for the Hokies." He hit 11 home runs as a freshman. So this is the sentence. Over his career, we only played 1 full season. He slashed 326, 446, 607 with 17 home runs, 11 of his freshman, and 17 total RBI. So again, just a really good addition. And his name's Garrett Michael. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Another just like, this is someone, this is a high profile recruit in Michael. And then you get Matthew Polk, an outfielder from Vanderbilt. This guy was one of the highest rated players in California out of high school a few years ago. Just kind of a guy that people have been watching for a long time. And graduate transfer. So this from On3. During his 3 seasons playing for Vanderbilt, Polk batted .295 with 25 doubles, 10 home runs, 13 stolen bases. So you add him in the outfield, another great addition. I'm going to touch on Colby Guy right here. He was the Big South pitcher of the year at UNC Asheville. Enters this season coming off a 4.35 ERA and a 7-4 record over 70 and a third innings at UNC Asheville. And to basically get he was the Big South preseason pitcher. Basically to get the best pitcher coming out of a conference. And yeah, it's a lower tier conference. Like that's a fantastic addition. So really good to see this guy, Colby Guy, coming into ASU baseball. George Bilecki is a player from a smaller college. Add him. And then earlier today on Sunday, the Sun Devils pick up Utah third baseman Austin Rolig. Hit 394, 331, 441 with 1 home run, 16 doubles, and 35 RBI for Utah last year. And this is a guy who originally signed with LSU. So he's a high-profile guy. These are just fantastic additions, and it goes to show that adding all full scholarships for baseball clearly is paying dividends. I'm sure these guys are getting some NIL as well, but getting a full scully in baseball like that is going to be that's huge for the families, right? Like it's just really good to see. And this team is losing some bats offensively, right? Like most notably Isaiah Jackson. And so just supplementing this lineup with guys who have proven it at high levels, like Rolig and Michael have done it at Virginia Tech and Utah, playing in ACC and Big 12 competition. And Rolig, Utah's not that good of a team. He didn't have that much help in his lineup too. So that's another thing about his production last year. So those dudes have done it before. Granted, Michael has been injured a bit, but it appears that he's good to go for the upcoming season. Polk, I should have mentioned him as well. Polk, big-time recruit out of Vanderbilt. Really good to have him in the outfield. Colby Guy and Bilecki lower levels, but Guy was did well at UNC Asheville. And then Toigo and Longo, like, first of all, Dominic Longo is a great baseball name. Like you go Longo, like there you go. These dudes lit it up at UNLV and Utah Valley, respectively. Like lit it up. Both hit over 300 with double-digit home runs. Toigo hitting 377. That's remarkable. So, the pitching will be a work in progress still, but when you have a lineup like that, like that's just a great place to be, because as good as this lineup was, it wasn't immune to some rough outings, So it's good that you can replenish that. And another thing that's important is a lot of the guys leaving. I'm not going to be too disrespectful, but like I wasn't really familiar with many of them, other than Jax Ryan, and a lot of these guys just didn't have that much production. So like you're not losing super important pieces from last year's team, and that's good, because last year you did lose some important players. And maybe if you had Thomas Burns this year, then you win, I don't know, 3 more games, and who knows, maybe you get a different path, and who knows what happens, right? Like you don't want to lose your best players. And so it's good to have Cole Carlin and Harrison not leave. So there you go. Just touched on baseball. Just a good to see. Good to see ASU just cleaning up in the transfer portal. It's a lot easier to win when you just have a magnet and you're attracting all these high-level guys to Tempe. I still can't get over that this Toigo kid hit 377. It's just, and I get it's at UNLV, but that's not that much lower of a level, With baseball, it's not like you're going from the FCS in football up to a Power Four conference, right? Like we saw Luke Keeschel from San Francisco like 3 years ago come up to ASU. He was incredible at ASU, and he like rose up through the minor league system and to get to the Twins, and then he got injured at the Twins. But the point is, like, you can easily transfer up in baseball, and it's not unheard of to kind of keep that success going. So really good to see where ASU baseball is at right now in terms of the portal. I mean, it's been can't really ask for much better from this ASU baseball offseason. It's been, and you haven't been able to say that the last few years, And look, I'm not someone who like really follows the baseball portal. Like if you watch this show, like I touch on baseball and this and that, but like I'm not like really diving into it. But it's kind of hard to ignore, right? Like it's just so much talent that is that's being talked about, and it's great to see. All right, shifting back to football. This is something I've wanted to do for a bit this offseason. I want to do it now. One of the things that you'll hear talked about with ASU football entering, when people are doing previews and kind of prognosticating what's going to happen in the 2025 season is sometimes people will mention, oh, ASU, they played in a lot of close games. And there's some truth to that. I wanted to go through every one-score game that ASU played in and kind of just analyze it and be like, okay, what kind of game was this? A game that ASU was in control of and the final score was just close? Was it a game that ASU lost and the final score was actually way more favorable to ASU than the actual game was, how it looked on the field? And just kind of not go through the box score line by line or whatever, but just kind of look at every game and be like, okay, how did that game actually play out, right? So, because I think, and look, a lot of BYU fans are in this same boat. Like people say, oh, BYU played a lot of close games, and there's some truth in that. Like people remember, they had a Friday night game against Oklahoma State where they almost lost in Provo, and they didn't look that great in that game, And so they had the game at the end of the year against Houston that didn't look that great. So all these things didn't totally it didn't always look great for BYU. And so people are like, oh, like they could lose. And a lot of that same mindset is with ASU as well. Now, BYU's quarterback is under investigation for sexual assault. And if you read the article, it doesn't look good. I'll just leave it at that. And they also lost one of their best offensive players and a starting linebacker in the spring portal. So I think there's a little bit more tangible reasons to expect a BYU downshift this next year, as opposed to ASU, who lost no one of significance in the portal. Obviously, Lou Scadaboo. But anyway, just kind of wanted to look at the actual games and be like, okay, like what kind of – was this like a coin flip 50-50 game that totally could have gone either way and you really got to watch for regression on that next year? Or was it a game that ASU was in control of and didn't really close it out well? And maybe that final score isn't exactly indicative of how the game was played. And I'm also going to look at the college football luck index. So do I want to do the luck index first? Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? Let's do the luck index first. This is done by Bill Conley on May 2nd. So I've had this article in the hopper for a bit. Let me share my screen to the ESPN article that Bill Conley wrote. Okay, luck index. So I'm not going to go through the whole methodology, but he has 4 sections: turnover luck, close games luck, injuries and general shuffling, and turned around candidates. Turnover luck. Okay. Number 1 was James Madison. Indiana, number 2. Let's go to ASU. I'm just going to search Arizona State. So Arizona State in turn. Expected turnover margin, or 42nd, which is, a little bit above average, I guess. Like they weren't the worst of the worst, but I think there's generally a correlation of just not being a good team and having bad turnover luck. And, is that because you have a bad quarterback? Is that because you have like bad offensive schemes that put guys in wrong positions, or is it just the ball bounces the right way? Who knows? Because look, Texas is right where we are, right? Where's Ohio State? I'd like to see where Ohio State is in turn. Yeah, so Ohio State didn't have great turnover luck, right? And that's probably a reason why that team, instead of losing, maybe one game that whole year, they lost twice, right? And they wouldn't have gotten into the playoff in a previous year because they finished the year 10-2. So this is bad. Come on. Okay. Yeah. 102nd in turnover. So this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good team or a bad team. SMU all the way down here, they made the playoffs. So anyway, but this is turnover margin expected, right? Or expected turnover margin. Is that? Nope, this is post-game win. Good Lord, man. Okay. Turnover luck. Back to turnover luck. Expected turnover margin. Arizona State. Okay, it's annoying that the ESPN interface really sucks. Anyway, Arizona State, 42nd. So, okay, you can't, if you are making a case that ASU benefited from crazy turnover luck, the answer is a little bit, right? There's 100, how many? 134 teams. So they are at the high end at 42, but not they did a little bit. That's the correct answer. Yeah, they did a little bit, but not like Clemson or Indiana, where they really benefited. No, they were on the positive edge, but not by a lot, and I think when you have how many dropped interceptions did Sam Leavitt have? I can think of one in the Oklahoma State game. And had that been a pick, it would have been a little bit closer of a final score, but ASU still would have won that game, So, expected turnover margin. So their expected turnover margin was 4th, and their actual turnover margin was 6th. So it's okay, nothing that crazy. So turnovers, yeah, they benefited a little bit, but not really. Not a huge, not in a huge way. Close games, post-game win expectancy. Iowa State, very high. Number 2, Texas Tech. So if you're looking for some regression candidates in the Big 12, the Cyclones and the Red Raiders are high up there. Syracuse, 10-win season, high up there. Arizona State, okay, yeah, we're +9, +0.9, right by Georgia and BYU. So we did have some close game, post-game win expectancy luck. It shows your record overall, one-score game record, second-order wins. So ASU 3-1 in one-score games. I'm sorry, 6-2 in one-score games. Second-order wins is 10.1. So basically, it's saying you should have won 10 games. You won 11, right? I think that's what it's meant. I think that's what it's mentioning. Where Iowa State won 3 more games than they should have based off of Conley's metrics. So yeah, they did a little bit, but not by when you're up in the top. Once you get into 1.5, top 13 here, you really benefited. ASU benefited a little bit, but not a crazy amount, and some teams really didn't. Kansas, like that makes sense that Kansas is very low, right? If you watch them, it was clear that they, in Washington, Auburn. So like, yeah, some teams really got the short end of the stick on close games. Alabama, but you know, it for it to come out in the wash of Conley's numbers, having it be like, okay, you won 11 games, you should have won 10. It's like, okay, like that's not that big of an indictment on your close game results, in my opinion. I think he mentions, yeah. So he does. So like he doesn't mention Arizona State really in that. So injuries. So this is tougher to suss out. So they're tied with 44th. Clemson, right at 3 playoff teams actually, with Clemson and Boise State. So started all but 0-1 games, started 1-2 games. So like Penn State was very healthy. Indiana, Rutgers. So Indiana really had a lot of things going for them last year. ASU did, but not, not a crazy amount. They're above average in all of these, but they're like 25 to 44. So it's not like it's not like they completely just lucked out in every single way. And then you have major turnaround candidates. Okay, Utah, FSU. Yeah, Utah is a team to watch out for this year in the Big 12. They have great tackles. Their quarterback game will be better, and then that's the end of it. So, yeah. So in injuries, close games, and turnover luck, ASU is like probably averages out at like 37th. And like, okay, like that's above average, but it's also not incredibly like fluky, and you can't expect, because the other thing is, and like ASU has a better on paper team than it did last year. And I know you're like, oh, but you lose Scatterbill, and that's part of it. But Levitt will be better throughout the entire season, this upcoming season, than he was last year, because you could just see the improvement that he made as the season went along. And you have 4 or 5 offensive linemen returning. You keep the connection with Jordan Tyson and Shimon Mateer to a lesser extent. I think the wide receiver core will be better than it was last year, from a depth perspective, especially now that Malik McClain is more entrenched in the system and isn't coming in super late in the cycle like he did last year. And then, I mean, the defense should be just more tightened up. And there's just on paper. That's why I say on paper, like on paper reasons for this team to be like a more sturdy team than it even was last year. We'll see how that plays out. Like, who knows? But that just overall higher level of sturdiness, for lack of a better phrase, like that can be a buffer in some luck regression that won't go your way. But I will point out in the injury thing, like your 3 best offensive players being, Levitt, Scatterbill, and Tyson. Tyson missed the Iowa State game, and it didn't matter in the slightest. ASU beat the tar out of Iowa State. Yes, they got some turnovers in there, but like ASU was the better team in that game. No one walked away from that game being like, I don't know, Iowa State. Like, no, ASU kicked the snot out of them. And then his presence was missed against Texas. But again, that was like a coin flip game. That came down to a missed targeting call. There could have, it came down to ASU not executing in the, at the goal line for Texas a few times, right? So like that game, ASU could have easily won that game without Tyson. They just, for lots of reasons, they didn't. And Texas is the best team ASU played all year, and so it would have been better to have him, obviously. But maybe if ASU has Tyson, they force it to him a bit, and one of Texas' great defensive backs makes a play, and like who knows how the game goes if they have Tyson. But regardless, in the I'll just count the Big 12 title game as the regular season. You didn't have Tyson, you still won that game. They missed a game with Scatterbill. Scatterbill missed a game. ASU won that game without Scatterbill. And then you lose Levitt for a game, and you lose that game. But And you lose him for a part of the Utah game, and you were able to kind of make your way through that for a bit with Jeff Sims. So it's not like they had zero injuries. They freaking Prince Dorba was out for like the first month of the season with an injury suffered at camp. So it while they did have some luck in their favor, it's like it averages out, luck, close games, injuries. It all averages out in like 37th out of all the teams, and that's like better than average, but it's also not like, oh my gosh, they're in the top 3. Like, ooh, like that, where it really raises some red flags. That's more like, oh man, like they were, I've said it a bunch of times in this, but they weren't crazy lucky. They were lucky. They were more than average, but it wasn't like crazy unsustainable. So now let's go back and look at the schedule of last year. And like kind of suss out these one-score games. Obviously, Wyoming, that was not a one-score game in the slightest. That, they kicked their ass. Mississippi State, the score here is so like anytime you jump out to a 30-3 lead, let's look at the box score there. Okay, yeah, this is why I'm not going to look at the box score for every team because it takes too long. Yeah, so ASU is up 27-3 at half. They get another field goal, and then Mississippi State makes a comeback when ASU is, just it's natural. You see this all the time in football. Team goes up 30-3 midway through the third quarter. And then Mississippi State, to their credit, they make some plays. ASU doesn't do quite a good enough job of holding the ball. You have a bad series here, 3 plays, 6 yards. It's not great. But they did force one punt, right? It turned out to be a very important series in the end of the game. Then you give up one really stupid, right? You give up a really stupid 80-yard touchdown. Like, that was a bad, obviously like a bad result. Then you close it out. And again, you did this, like, people point to the Texas Tech game as Leavitt's worst game of last year. No. This was his worst game of last year. And and that includes 2 touchdown runs as well. But like, it's his worst passing game was his second start against Mississippi State. Just, he missed some throws really bad in this game. Not his best performance, but the overall result of that game does not show like it wasn't a back and forth 30-23 game. No, it was ASU went up 30-3, let its foot off the gas. Mississippi State comes back and ASU closes it out, and it's signed, sealed, delivered. So like that's not a game where you're like, oh, like ASU, no, like that's whatever. Like the Texas State game. Yeah, that was a close game. That was a close game that ASU could have definitely lost. But let's look into let's look at the factors in that Texas State game, right? What was that? That was the biggest home game in Texas State football in years. You're welcoming a Power 4 team on the road on a Thursday night. The crowd's all jacked up. It's an above-average Group of 5 team, right? With like a 25-year-old quarterback. ASU scores the first touchdown, then Texas State roars back. ASU ties it at half, and then it's kind of nip and tuck in the second half. ASU wins the game. And another thing is like ASU doesn't play a Group of 5 team on the road this year. They host Texas State. So it's not anything, it's not a replicable environment again. You're not going to Tulane on Thursday night this year. If that was the case, then yeah, I'd be a lot more afraid of some close game regression. But that's not you're not facing that schedule reality again. So I just look at it as like, yeah, like ASU could have lost that game, but they're also not going to be in a situation where they're going. If they went to Fresno State on a Thursday night in week 3 after playing Mississippi State. Like, I would be worried about that, but that scenario doesn't exist. They host Texas State on a Saturday night. So it's like, okay, we're not going to have to deal with that again. Texas Tech game, yeah, this was a close game that even ASU was kind of lucky for it to be. It was kind of lucky for ASU to keep it technically a one-score game. I will say ASU's defense, I thought, played a commendable game in that. Not a good game, but a commendable game in the sense that Texas Tech, they had a lead. They went up 14-0 like that, and then they were never able to really clinch the game. ASU always maintained it in the game like a little bit. And so it wasn't Leavitt's best game. There was also a big deep pass drop from Jake Smith in that game that would have been a touchdown. And this game goes a little differently if that ball is caught. It didn't. And, ASU loses that game, and it stinks. Kansas game, yeah, this was obviously a game could have lost. ASU needed a freaking fourth quarter drive to win the game. The reason I don't think that game is that big of a deal, A, you don't play Kansas this year. B, ASU had like 2 of the touchdowns that Kansas scored were just complete coverage busts, right? And so if you're dealing with that, like, is ASU going to have 2 coverage busts in a game this year? Maybe they will, but that's something that's a fixable thing. And some of the other plays, it was, the Jalen Daniels and the receivers making great plays, and you still won the game. But I guess this one was definitely more of a 50-50 game. But I don't know. I don't know how, like, there's some non-replicable stuff. Like, I think this ASU defense, like, they're college kids. Like, I get it. But since they're all returning, I just don't envision them having a game this year where they give up 2 coverage bust touchdowns, right? 2, like, and both of them I think were impacted by Kamari Wilson, who's no longer on ASU, the safety. So, and I'm just always going to remember one of the touchdowns that Kansas scored. Elijah O'Neal was rushing up the middle and was being held. He should have been called for holding, wasn't. That's part of it. You're not going to get calls all the time, so I bring that up last. But I guess this Kansas game is an example of like, hey, like, if some stuff doesn't go well, like if you make some boneheaded plays, like, yeah, you could lose a game to a good team. So I think that should be the takeaway from the Kansas game. Utah game, I hardly even consider it a close game because ASU missed a extra point on one of these touchdowns that they scored. So it should have been 28-19, and then it's not a one-score game anymore. So I'm not even going to talk about that. Like, in the Utah game, I'm more worried about, like, are you beating Utah again without Scadaboo? But again, this was also a game where they injure Sam Leavitt. So it's like there's a lot of unique things that happened in this Utah game that had it finish the way it did. So there's that. Cincinnati, you lose by 10, right? And this was a game, by the way, like, you had 2 missed kicks, a weird fourth down decision, and you lose by 10 on the road at Cincinnati. And, I'm not going to focus too much on that one. Then Oklahoma State kicked their ass. UCF, this is the game right here. When we're looking at close game regression, it's the UCF game. No Scadaboo. Having been in that game, watched it in person, I was like, oh, I don't know if ASU is going to win, and then we pulled it out. That was a game. That's a game that, like, a lot of even pretty good ASU teams do not win in the past. RJ Harvey completely kicked our ass in that game. It was not a good crowd game. It was not a good crowd game at all. And granted, like, I don't want to give the crowd, like, because you were 6-2, but, like, people are like, oh, this team's good, but, like, who knows how good they'll really be. ASU, like, didn't have great possession of the ball for a lot of this game, and I think that's one of the because they got the blocked punt early on, So UCF's offense was able to get all these consecutive drives in a row, and I think that threw ASU out of rhythm, along with not having the best crowd game. You kind of rebound by getting that pick six at the 1 yard line to win the game or to go up at halftime, and so uh, it was a weird game, and ASU was able to just make enough plays. They got a huge fourth down stop at the end of the game to seal it. And I mean, Levitt made some incredible throws to Tyson. And so that was really a game that it was special teams and Levitt and Tyson that won you that game. But that was a game that just kind of kept you alive and kept you on the right track. Kansas State game, woo, great game. This game could have been even better if Tyson didn't have a late fumble that cost ASU a chance to score again. So, but again, not a close game in terms of the one score. BYU, yeah, this one you could have lost. But I don't think BYU never had the lead in this game. You were up. Let's see. And then the Texas game, I'm not even going to go over because it's like we've talked about it. Like that game could have gone so many different ways. Like, and you may not play a team as good as Texas this upcoming season as last year's Texas team. So if you do, then whatever. This is more about like a regular season type of deal. So we'll finish up with the BYU game. You're up 21-3 at halftime. You go up. Anytime you can just take these huge leads, it's hard for me to be like, oh, it was a 50-50 game. It's like, no, like the 50-50 games I would put in a bucket of UCF, Texas State, and Kansas. And the Texas State and Kansas games, I believe, the Texas State game, you're not going to face that environment again. Just no matter what. You will not be like the first Power 4 team coming to a G5 stadium on a Thursday night with essentially a true freshman quarter. Like, you're not going to have all these things going against you. Playing a 25-year-old quarterback, right? So that's out. The Kansas game, there's definitely some things of like weird stuff can happen. There can always be coverage busts. And then the UCF game is like, that's the one that you have to have circle on your calendar. Like, hey, like if you just let up for a game and don't bring the requisite energy, like a team can beat you. And that was the UCF example. Or almost beat you, I guess. So you race out to a 21-3 lead at halftime. Downs, but you still take up 7 minutes basically and get deep in their territory. Okay, they take 5 minutes to go 96 yards, maybe a little bit too quick. But by the time they score, it's 2:49 left in the third quarter, and it's 21-9, right? Then at the end, then again in the third quarter, ASU strikes right away with the touchdown pass to Guillory, and all of a sudden you're up. Oh, and then see, this was the bad drive right here. ASU just 16 yards, 36 yards incomplete, 21-yard pass to Lassiter or to JoJo Phillips. Like, that was a horrible drive individually. Oh, look at that. The Hail Mary that couldn't even make it. Oh, God. I loved watching that play live because you could just tell that the ball didn't have enough juice to actually make it. Anyway, so then ASU goes all the way down. They block the play right. Scattaboo runs the wrong direction. So again, like that's like a fixable thing. And even still, they ran it all the way down. And again, a thing I haven't mentioned is like ASU's kicking situation was completely messed up for most of this year. So if you have a better kicker, which you should in Gomez, you probably just take the kick. You go up by 2:34 left. You go up, the 2 minutes, 30 seconds left. You go up by 8 instead of being up by 5. And then, you do the weird downs thing. Like, there's so much weird stuff that ASU self-inflicted. So this game could have it still would have been a one-score game, but like ASU was the better team in this game, and it was in control for the vast majority of the game. Now, there's games where that happens and you still lose, So I do think they can learn from the BYU game in terms of, this is how you close games. Um, but I don't look at that BYU game as like, oh, that was a close, like that game could have gone either way. Like, eh, I didn't see it that way. So I really only pinpoint the Texas State, Kansas, and UCF game. And in terms of next year, like the regression would be like if Houston, like let's look at the schedule, like the equivalent of what the UCF game was last year would be like this Houston game right here. Or if West Virginia ends up being a lot better than people think. It would be one of these two where it's kind of more like the dog days of the season. You've already played a lot of your better opponents, right? This stretch here with Baylor through Texas Tech. And it's one of these, like, Houston may not have a great crowd. If West Virginia's bad, the crowd may not be that great. Like, who knows? And you don't come out a bit flat, and all of a sudden it's a closer game than you think. Like, that's what you have to worry about, and that would be the equivalent of the UCF game last year. All right, that show went a little bit longer than I expected. Glad most of the important information was up in the front in terms of the football recruiting and the fantastic start to the college baseball offseason for ASU baseball. And just wanted to touch on the close games and kind of dive into like how they played out. So, all right, thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on your podcast platform of choice. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Sun Devils.